The cameras were rolling. The lights were blinding. And in that electric, humming tension of late-night television, something extraordinary happened. Something that would set the entire internet on fire within hours. Taylor Swift, America's most calculated, most beloved, most dissected performer, had just walked out on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. But not before giving him one of the most intelligent and devastating reality checks ever delivered on national television. Before we dive in, tell us in the comments where you're watching from tonight. This story has been trending worldwide, and trust me, you'll want to stick around to the end, because what started as a fun little roast turned into a moment that exposed just how thin the line is between comedy and cruelty. The Tonight Show studio was buzzing, laughter, applause, camera flashes bouncing off the metallic blue set. Fallon's energy was high. He'd just returned from a brief hiatus. Ratings were climbing again. And tonight's guest? The one and only Taylor Swift, promoting her new billion-dollar-era empire. A record-breaking global tour and film that had redefined the music industry itself. But Fallon wasn't content with small talk. He wanted viral gold. So, as the interview began, he leaned back in his chair, flashing that trademark grin. The grin that says I'm about to push it too far. Taylor, Fallon began, you've had one of the biggest tours in history, multiple #1 hits, record-breaking ticket sales. But tell me, does it ever get lonely at the top? Or do your exes still keep you company in the lyrics? The audience chuckled nervously. Taylor smiled, that kind of tight, polite smile that says, I heard you, and I'm deciding whether to forgive you. She replied softly, Jimmy, I think the only thing lonelier than being at the top is watching someone try too hard to stay relevant. The audience gasped. Fallon blinked. The band stopped mid-laugh. For the first time, you could feel the balance of power shift. Fallon tried to recover. Oh, come on, it's all love. You know me. I tease everyone. That's what makes the show fun. Taylor leaned slightly forward, calm and composed. I love humor, Jimmy. But there's a difference between making people laugh and making people uncomfortable. The crowd murmured. Even the Roots exchanged glances. Fallon pressed on. So you're saying you've never roasted anyone before? Come on. Dear John, Bad Blood, All Too Well. Those are lyrical assassinations. The audience laughed louder this time, but it wasn't the same kind of laughter. It was awkward, forced, the kind that grows when people aren't sure if it's still safe to laugh. Taylor's eyes didn't flinch. Those songs are written about experiences, not targets. The goal isn't to humiliate, it's to heal. And then she dropped the first bombshell of the night. But I understand. When you don't have original material, sometimes you have to use other people's pain to fill the silence. The audience exploded. Cheers, gasps, and camera flashes erupted in waves. Fallon tried to laugh it off, but his smile faltered. In the control room, producers shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't in the script. Fallon's writers hadn't prepared a contingency for Taylor Swift fighting back. He reached for his mug, try and break the tension. Hey, we're just having fun. This isn't The View, it's The Tonight Show. But the damage was done. The audience now wasn't laughing with Fallon. They were watching him, waiting for his next move, like spectators at a slow-motion train wreck. Taylor remained unbothered, crossing one leg over the other, looking stunning yet dangerously serene. It was that quiet confidence, the same one that has carried her through every media storm since she was 16. Fallon tried again. Okay, I'll stop. But you've got to admit, you've turned every breakup into a business empire. That's impressive branding. Taylor chuckled lightly. I prefer to call it storytelling. But I understand why you call it branding. You sell laughter, I sell truth. The crowd roared. And this time, Fallon's fake laugh didn't hide the discomfort. Somewhere in the front row, a fan whispered, she's actually owning him right now. Another said, this feels like when Kanye stormed the stage, but reversed. Even the cameramen were stunned. Every expression, every twitch of Fallon's jaw, every calm glance from Taylor. It was all being immortalized on 4K cameras and destined for viral TikTok edits. Fallon leaned back, chuckling nervously. Oh, come on, you know I adore you. Don't Swifties come for me now. Taylor smiled again. They only come for people who earn it. The room erupted. Laughter, cheers, gasps, and that unmistakable hum that only happens when a line hits too hard to ignore. Fallon froze. For a split second, you could see the flicker of panic, the realization that this wasn't going to be the lighthearted segment he expected. And then he doubled down. "So, tell me, Taylor," Fallon said, his tone now half serious, half defensive. "When you write these songs about your exes, do you ever worry that maybe you a problem?" The crowd went dead silent. It wasn't funny. It wasn't clever. It was cruel. Taylor's smile vanished, just for a second. Then she leaned in, voice steady and razor-sharp. "You know, Jimmy, every woman who's ever spoken her truth has been called the problem by someone who couldn't handle accountability." The audience erupted into thunderous applause. Fallon tried to interrupt, but she wasn't finished. "It's not the first time I've seen a man make jokes out of women's emotions to feel more powerful. But it's the first time I've seen it happen live, and I hope it's the last." Fallon stuttered. I didn't mean..." Taylor smiled gently. "I know you didn't. That's what makes it worse." Gasps filled the studio. People weren't breathing. They were watching history unfold. The producer's voice crackled faintly in Fallon's earpiece. Cut to break. Cut to break. But Fallon didn't listen. He wanted to salvage the moment. "So, we're still good, right?" he asked, half laughing, half pleading. Taylor exhaled slowly. "We're fine, Jimmy. Just, maybe next time, ask yourself if the joke is worth the punchline." She stood up, smiled for the cameras, waved to the crowd, and then she walked off the stage. The audience erupted again, some cheering, some booing, but everyone recording. Fallon sat frozen behind his desk, mug still in hand, eyes darting off camera to his producers. No music played, no credits rolled, just silence. The clip was uploaded within minutes. Hashtag Taylor Swift on Fallon, trending globally by sunrise. But what happened after that walkout was even more explosive, because in less than 12 hours, everyone from comedians to politicians had weighed in, and by the next morning, Fallon's career was facing questions he never expected to answer. But what Taylor did next, and how she handled the chaos, stunned even her harshest critics. The next morning, America woke up to chaos. Phone screens glowed with one phrase plastered everywhere. Taylor Swift walks out on Fallon. Clips of the tense exchange flooded TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Every angle, every glance, every syllable had been replayed, dissected, slowed down, and remixed. And for the first time in years, Jimmy Fallon wasn't trending for his jokes. He was trending for his judgment. Did Fallon go too far? Taylor handled that like a queen. It's always just a joke until a woman calls you out. Within an hour, hashtag Team Taylor was everywhere. The hashtags weren't just trending. They were dominating. Inside 30 Rock, the vibe was panic-wrapped in silence. Fallon producers had gathered in the green room. Heads buried in phones. Legal advisors whispering damage control scripts. One in turn broke the quiet. Rolling Stone just published something. Headline says, "Fallon crossed a line." Fallon walked in moments later, visibly tense. His usual energy gone. "All right," he muttered. "How bad is it?" No one answered. On the big monitor, clips played on loop. Taylor's calm face, Fallon's nervous laugh. The moment she said, "That's what makes it worse." That single line was being stitched into memes, quoted on news tickers, even turned into merch within hours. NBC execs were already calling. Sponsors were concerned. Social media analysts said sentiment was swinging 78% in Taylor's favor. Fallon rubbed his eyes. It was a joke. A freaking joke. But someone finally said what everyone else was thinking. "Jimmy, you picked the wrong person to joke about." Across town, Taylor's PR team was calm. They knew better than to overreact. "Do we release a statement?" her publicist asked. Taylor shook her head. "No need. The clip speaks for itself." Instead, she posted one quiet Instagram story, a black background, white text. When you have to explain the joke, it probably wasn't funny. That was it. No hashtags, no tags, no interviews. Within minutes, millions shared it. Celebrities reposted. Feminist icons quoted it. Even rival musicians commented fire emojis. Swift's restraint became her weapon. Fallon's defensiveness became his downfall. By noon, The View, CNN Tonight, and Good Morning America all ran segments on the Taylor-Fallon incident. Pundits debated intent, sexism, comedy, and accountability. One comedian defended Fallon. He's always roasted his guests. It's a style. But another fired back. Comedy's not an excuse for disrespect. The audience felt that discomfort. That's what matters. Clips of Taylor's composure became the modern blueprint for dignity under fire. And the internet wasn't done. Users began pulling up past moments when Fallon made similar roasts that aged poorly. One tweet read, "This isn't new behavior. It's just the first time someone stood up to him live." Suddenly, the narrative shifted from one awkward interview to a pattern. NBC's crisis team jumped into action. Meetings ran back to back. Marketing execs whispered about advertiser pullouts. A leaked internal memo revealed a plan. Fallon would issue a lighthearted clarification on the next episode to smooth things over. But someone higher up disagreed. "No," said an executive vice president. "He needs to apologize. Not clarify. Apologize." Fallon bristled. "For what? For trying to be funny?" "For losing the audience," the EVP replied coldly. And right now, Taylor Swift owns the audience. 2 nights later, The Tonight Show aired again. The crowd's applause was thinner. The mood uncertain. Fallon opened the show with his usual grin, but his eyes told a different story. "So, he began, half joking. You might have seen a clip going around." Light laughter. "I want to say, Taylor's an amazing artist and a great friend. I respect her, and sometimes comedy doesn't land the way we intend." The crowd clapped politely, but Twitter didn't. That's not an apology. He's minimizing again. You respect her? You embarrass her. Within an hour, screenshots of the monologue were trending under a new tag. #DoBetterJimmy. Meanwhile, Taylor was at a charity gala in Nashville, wearing a stunning emerald gown and the same quiet confidence she displayed on Fallon's stage. Reporters shouted questions. "Taylor, do you accept Jimmy's apology?" She smiled, paused, and said softly, "I never heard one." That clip alone hit 10 million views in 3 hours. At that point, even Fallon's allies stopped defending him. Brands began subtly distancing themselves. A major streaming sponsor postponed its partnership announcement. And then came the moment no one expected. Fallon's former writer spoke up. In an exclusive variety feature, one ex-writer said, "We used to joke about who he'd make cry next." Some guests laughed it off. Taylor didn't. The comment section exploded. Fallon's reputation as the fun, goofy host was cracking. Social media turned into a full-blown courtroom drama. YouTube creators, reaction channels, and even psychology experts analyzed the video frame by frame. One viral TikTok breakdown said, "Notice her posture. Calm, unflinching. That's emotional intelligence under attack." Another clip highlighted Fallon's microexpressions: guilt, defensiveness, fear. Hashtags turned to movements. #RespectWomenInMedia hit 1 billion views in 48 hours. And Taylor? She stayed silent and unstoppable. Her streaming numbers went up. Her tour sales spiked. Every time Fallon tried to move past the story, new commentators revived it. The narrative was no longer about a late-night spat. It had become a cultural reckoning about power, gender, and the cost of mockery disguised as humor. By the end of the week, Fallon finally realized he couldn't out-joke this. He reached out privately through intermediaries, hoping to meet Taylor and clear the air off camera. But Taylor's camp declined politely. Her publicist replied, "Taylor appreciates the gesture, but believes accountability shouldn't happen behind closed doors." That line leaked, and it set the internet ablaze once again. Accountability shouldn't happen behind closed doors. That became the new anthem. Printed on T-shirts, used in protest signs, quoted in think pieces. Taylor Swift wasn't just defending herself anymore. She'd accidentally, or maybe intentionally, become the voice of everyone tired of being laughed at in the name of entertainment. Late that weekend, Fallon went live on Instagram, attempting to control the narrative. He looked tired, the backdrop playing. "I messed up," he admitted. "I thought I was being funny, but I was wrong. I'm sorry, Taylor." It was sincere, but too late. Comments flooded in faster than he could read them. Some forgave him. Most didn't. And as his live stream ended, one comment pinned to the top read, "Apologies are easy when your ratings drop." Within minutes, Taylor's silence once again said everything. Her fans flooded timelines with lyrics. "You made a joke out of my pain, but I turned it into power." By Monday morning, networks worldwide were calling this a Fallon Fallout. CNN, BBC, TMZ, everyone wanted new angles. Public opinion had shifted permanently. And just when the storm seemed to calm, a leaked behind-the-scenes clip surfaced, showing Fallon, moments after Taylor left, muttering something under his breath. The audio was muffled, but viewers enhanced it. He seemed to say, "Some people just can't take a joke." That 5-second clip reignited everything. Headlines screamed, "Fallon caught mocking Taylor after walkout." NBC under pressure as new clip emerges. The internet went nuclear. Fallon's credibility hanging by a thread. Taylor's composure more admired than ever. But what she did next, on live television again, would silence the entire entertainment world. The internet had spoken. By the third day, the Fallon Fallout wasn't just a trending topic. It was a movement. Influencers, journalists, even politicians weighed in. The hashtags told the story better than any headline. Hashtag justice for Taylor. Hashtag accountability live. Hashtag comedy or cruelty. What was once just a talk show segment had turned into a referendum on how power, humor, and respect collide under the bright lights of television. Hollywood, predictably, split in half. Some comedians defended Fallon. "You can't cancel comedy," one wrote. But others, especially women in entertainment, rallied around Taylor. Actress Zendaya posted on X, "Humor has limits. Humanity doesn't." Reese Witherspoon reposted Taylor's Instagram quote, writing, "When grace meets mockery, grace wins every time." Even Oprah chimed in during an interview. Taylor didn't raise her voice. She raised the standard. By midweek, Taylor's silence had become the most powerful voice in the country. Meanwhile, at NBC headquarters, meetings dragged past midnight. Executives worried the scandal could damage The Tonight Show's legacy. Fallon's name, once synonymous with warmth and charm, was now being associated with arrogance and tone deafness. One internal email leaked to the press. Viewership dropped 18% since the Taylor incident. Brand confidence is shaken. PR teams proposed everything, from a joint interview with Taylor to a charity collaboration to demonstrate reconciliation. But Taylor's team declined. Again, she's moved on, her representative said simply. She doesn't want to be part of damage control. Those 5 words, "she doesn't want to be part of damage control," hit harder than any song lyric. They said everything. Fallon's team realized what they were truly up against. Taylor Swift wasn't fighting him. She was ignoring him. And in Hollywood, that's the ultimate defeat. Just when the storm seemed to settle, Netflix made a surprise announcement. They were releasing a new documentary titled Power and Poise, Women Who Redefine Media. And guess who was the centerpiece? Taylor Swift. The teaser trailer dropped at midnight, and the first clip was her walking off Fallon's stage. Her calm expression. The audience frozen. A narrator's voice said, when silence became her loudest statement. It was cinematic, chilling, perfect. Fallon's fans accused Netflix of exploiting the scandal. But Netflix didn't care. Within 12 hours, the trailer hit 20 million views. For Fallon, it felt like salt on an open wound. For Taylor, it was poetic justice, without a single word spoken. The fallout wasn't just personal anymore. It was institutional. Networks began reviewing the tone of their comedy shows. Writers' rooms were called in for sensitivity briefings. Segments mocking celebrity emotions were quietly shelved. A Washington Post column declared, Taylor Swift didn't just walk out of the studio, she walked into history. The article argued that this single moment had forced an entire industry to reflect on how entertainment often thrives on humiliation. CNN aired a panel titled, Humor or Harassment? The Future of Late Night. And in the middle of it, an entertainment lawyer said something that echoed everywhere. When you turn pain into punchlines, the internet now punches back. 2 weeks after the fallout, Taylor made her first public TV appearance since the walkout. Not on Fallon's show, but on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. The night was electric. Fans lined up outside the studio hours early. Hashtags like hashtag Taylor Returns and hashtag Swift on Colbert dominated every feed. Colbert opened with a wink. Tonight, we promise no jokes that need apologies. Laughter filled the studio. And when Taylor walked out, calm, radiant, powerful, the crowd rose for a standing ovation that lasted nearly a full minute. Colbert asked the question everyone wanted answered. What was going through your mind that night? Taylor smiled gently. I was thinking about how easy it is for people to confuse humor with humiliation. I didn't leave because I was angry. I left because I refused to normalize it. The audience roared. That quote, clipped, subtitled, re-uploaded, went instantly viral. It became a manifesto. She continued, women have been laughed at on stages for decades. I think it's time we start laughing with them instead. By the time she finished speaking, the internet had crowned her queen of the night once again. While Taylor was trending again, Fallon's next episode was met with brutal statistics. Ratings hit a 2-year low. Comment sections flooded with "Bring Taylor Back" memes. Inside his dressing room, he stared at his reflection. The same mirror that had seen his rise now reflected his reckoning. A producer walked in quietly. Jimmy, NBC want to discuss your future. He didn't respond. The laughter, the cheers, the applause, gone. All that remained was the echo of a single line. Ask yourself if the joke is worth the punchline. It haunted him. The next morning, Fallon made a decision that shocked everyone. He invited a panel of female comedians, journalists, and media critics onto The Tonight Show, not to defend him, but to debate him. It was unprecedented. Live, unedited, raw. The stage lights came up, the crowd hushed, and Fallon began. I crossed a line, and I didn't realize it until it was too late. Tonight, I'm not here to be funny. I'm here to listen. The audience gasped. One of the panelists, a respected journalist, replied, then listen closely, because this isn't just about you. It's about every man who hides cruelty behind comedy. It was uncomfortable, honest, necessary. For once, Fallon didn't joke. He didn't deflect. He just nodded, absorbing every word. By the end of the episode, applause filled the studio. Not the wild kind, but the respectful kind. The kind reserved for moments of truth. This time, the narrative changed. Fallon finally gets it. Accountability on live TV, rare but real. Respect where it's due. Even Taylor's fans acknowledge the shift. Her fan pages posted, growth deserves grace. We see the effort. And yet, Taylor remained silent. She didn't repost, didn't comment, didn't even hint at a response. Because her silence wasn't about Fallon anymore. It was about evolution. She'd made her point, and the world had listened. Across the entertainment industry, small but visible changes began to unfold. Writers crafted smarter comedy. Hosts learned to pause before crossing that invisible line. And late-night shows, once ruled by cynicism, started embracing sincerity again. For the first time in decades, viewers weren't tuning in just for laughs. They were tuning in for truth. An essay in The Atlantic summed it up perfectly. In a single act of walking away, Taylor Swift reminded the world that silence isn't weakness. It's power with discipline. By the end of that month, Fallon's reputation was stabilizing, but the landscape had changed forever. And then, in a twist no one saw coming, Taylor received a private letter from NBC's senior producers. It wasn't a PR stunt. It wasn't leaked. It was simply a handwritten note, delivered quietly. Thank you for reminding us what accountability looks like. Taylor read it, smiled faintly, and tucked it away. Because some victories don't need to be broadcast. Some are best left as lessons. But the story wasn't over. What happened next? A surprise encounter months later between Taylor and Fallon, which sealed their fates forever and delivered one of the most unforgettable live TV moments in recent history. Months passed. The world moved on, or so it thought. But deep inside the glimmering world of late-night television, something was quietly shifting. Producers were cautious, hosts were reflective, and audiences, sharper than ever, were watching with new eyes. Taylor Swift's Walkout had not only changed one show, it had changed the tone of television itself. One Friday morning, headlines exploded again. Taylor Swift returns to The Tonight Show, first time since the walkout. Nobody believed it at first. Social media went into meltdown. Twitter, TikTok, Reddit. Every feed pulsed with disbelief and curiosity. Is this real? She's going back? Fallon must be sweating buckets. NBC's promo trailer showed nothing but a single line. Tonight, the moment everyone's been waiting for. No footage. No preview. Just that sentence, and a slow fade into the silhouette of Taylor, walking toward the same blue-lit stage she'd left months ago. The internet lost its mind. That night, the crowd inside 30 Rock was unlike anything the show had seen in years. Security was tight. Fans lined the streets. Even rival networks tuned in. Fallon stood backstage, pacing. His cue card shook slightly in his hand. He wasn't nervous about ratings this time. He was nervous about redemption. The show opened. Cheers roared. Cameras panned. And when Fallon said, "Please welcome back Taylor Swift," the audience rose to its feet before she even stepped out. Taylor appeared, radiant, poised, and utterly in control. The same calm fire in her eyes, the same soft smile. But tonight, there was no tension. There was purpose. She walked across the stage. Fallon stood, extended his hand, and for a moment that felt like forever, she shook it. Applause thundered. Fallon took a breath. "Taylor, thank you for being here. I mean that." Taylor smiled. "Thank you for inviting me back." The tone was civil but electric. Everyone, from the studio crew to millions watching at home, knew this wasn't just another interview. This was closure. Fallon leaned forward. "I've thought a lot about that night. I want to say, I'm sorry. I went too far." The audience fell silent. You could hear the faint hum of studio lights. Taylor nodded. "I appreciate that. And I know how live television works. Things move fast, words land wrong. But accountability isn't about perfection. It's about growth." Fallon swallowed hard. "I deserve the backlash. And I learned something that night. The audience isn't laughing with you if someone else is hurting because of you." That line hit hard. The crowd erupted into applause. Taylor's eyes softened. "That's a good lesson. I think we all learned something." Fallon exhaled, almost like years of tension were leaving his body. For the first time in months, he looked lighter, human. Then Fallon did something no one expected. He turned to the band and said, "You know what? Let's give her the stage for a minute. No questions. No jokes. Just her." The lights dimmed. Taylor stood, walked to the center of the stage, and picked up a microphone that wasn't meant for talking, but for feeling. And without any intro, she began performing a brand new unreleased song. The crowd froze as the first lyrics poured out. "I've been the punchline, the rumor, the stage you burned down. But I found my voice in the silence, and I wear it like a crown." It wasn't angry. It wasn't bitter. It was transcendent, powerful, self-aware, poetic. Fallon wiped his eyes quietly. The audience swayed under the lights. By the end, Taylor looked toward Fallon's desk and said softly, "Sometimes the best comeback is compassion." The crowd roared to its feet, a standing ovation that lasted nearly 2 minutes. As the cheers faded, Fallon stepped back into frame. He didn't joke, didn't perform. He simply said, "That was beautiful. Thank you for giving us another chance." Taylor smiled warmly. "Thank you for taking it." The two shook hands again, and the audience cheered like history had just been rewritten. Fallon then turned to the camera. "To everyone watching, we live in a world that laughs fast and apologizes slow. Maybe it's time to switch that around." A pause. Applause. Fade to black. Within minutes, the segment exploded online. The clip titled "Taylor Swift Returns to the Tonight Show," and what happens next will move you, hit 5 million views in the first hour. Hashtag surged. Hashtag forgiveness live. Hashtag full circle moment. Hashtag swift returns. Comment sections flooded with messages like, "This is how adults handle conflict." Taylor didn't cancel him. She corrected him. True power isn't in walking away. It's knowing when to walk back. CNN called it the most healing moment on television this year. BBC titled their article, "From Walkout to Grace, Taylor's Swift Masterclass in Accountability." For the first time since the incident, Fallon's name trended positively. Behind the scenes, both teams agreed. No PR gimmicks, no overpromotion. The moment spoke for itself. NBC later revealed that episode had broken viewership records, not just for Fallon, but for any late-night show in 5 years. Sponsors came back. Audiences rediscovered something TV had long lost, authenticity. And for Taylor, her single, the one she debuted that night, became a global anthem. It topped charts within 24 hours. Its title? "The Joke's on You." Weeks later, Fallon appeared on a podcast. The host asked him, "What did that moment mean to you?" He smiled. "It meant I finally stopped performing and started listening. Taylor taught me that." Meanwhile, Taylor, in her own Rolling Stone interview, was asked if forgiveness was easy. She replied, "Forgiveness isn't easy. It's necessary. Otherwise, we all stay stuck in someone else's punchline." That quote alone became headline material. Every outlet, every influencer reposted it. Her fan base called it the quote of the decade. Months later, universities started citing the Taylor-Fallon incident in media ethics classes. It became case study material. How one moment changed the tone of entertainment. A Harvard panel titled it, "From Roast to Reflection, the New Age of Media Accountability." Even late-night producers began referring to it internally as the Swift Standard. It wasn't about censorship. It was about evolution, understanding that humor can entertain without degrading. And through it all, Taylor stayed grounded. She never gloated, never threw shade. She simply lived her message. Almost a year later, Fallon presented at the Grammy Awards. As fate would have it, Taylor Swift won Song of the Year for "The Joke's on You." The crowd went wild as she walked to the stage in a shimmering gold gown. Fallon handed her the award, smiling nervously. Taylor took the mic and said, "Funny how life brings you back to the same stage, just with a better story to tell." The crowd laughed, warmly this time. Then she looked at Fallon and added, "Thank you for being part of mine." Fallon bowed his head slightly, visibly emotional. The audience gave them both a standing ovation, not just for the award, but for the journey. Because everyone in that room, and everyone watching around the world, knew exactly what it meant that IT wasn't just a comeback. It was closure. And it was beautiful. As the camera panned out that night, the narrator's voice could have easily said what the world was thinking. In a time when outrage sells faster than honesty, two people chose grace instead of grudges. And in doing so, they reminded the world that even under the harshest spotlight, humanity still shines brightest.